welcome to Your Bossy Podcast. We are on season 4. I can't believe it's already season 4, and we are already at the end of all of the seasons about me and my healing journey. It feels like it was like in a blink of an eye, and we are already here. But honestly, the journey has been so long. So let's get into it. For this season 4 is about Solo Thailand, Project.findingme. I will be sharing photos and clips, maybe even from time to time in the episodes in this season. So prepare yourself for that as well. I want to share the experiences and the faces and things like that with you guys as well, because I understand that I too am a visual person, and I can only imagine so much in my head without actually I just need to see the actual thing in order to see how yummy it was or how beautiful it was. So I will be sharing a lot of photos and videos and things like that as well in this season. I hope that you look forward to that, because I know that even me too, just reliving the moments again, it just feels like it's so real, and I just get so happy and excited, and I just have this desire to want it again, or to relive that moment. And I hope that you get to also relive that moment through the things that I share. So let's get into the details for today's episode. It is titled Letting Go of My Car, my job, my future, and everyone around me, because when you travel so far and you buy a one-way ticket to somewhere, you don't really know how things are going to go and where you will end up. So I kind of, included that letting everybody go, because I wasn't honestly sure if I was going to see them again, because you never know what can happen. So today's episode is about letting all of that go and just trying to find yourself, chasing your dreams, and being fearless and brave and taking that step. So I want to share about what led me to even deciding about going to Thailand and how did it all start. Some of you may already know this, but for some of you, it may be something new. You didn't know that this was the thing that really sparked the whole idea of Project.findingme. So I actually flooded my car in early May of 2022. And when this flood happened, I was coming from the gym. That was when all of the floodings kind of happened, and it was heavy rains, and then the streets were kind of flooded. And while I was coming home, there was an area in one of the street where it was very kind of dark. And so then I didn't see that there was water flooded in that area. So I do live in an area where you kind of go downhill, but it wasn't because we were kind of in a ditch that had happened. It happened because there were construction in that area. So when I was coming home from the gym, there was a car in front of me, and that car actually went through the flood first. And when that car went through the flood, all of the water kind of went to the side. It was kind of like the scene in Moana where it separates and you kind of go through the water. So that's kind of what happened. So that car went through the water first, and then I was like, oh, it's fine, it's normal. And so then I went after that car, and when we were going, that car kind of slowed down for a little bit, and then that person's car died. And then when that person's car died, I of course had to slow down. So then when I slowed down as well, all of the water came rushing back. And now I didn't even tell you guys what kind of car I have. The car that I had was actually a sedan. So it was a small car. It was a Lexus 250, I believe. And it was 2014, I believe, was the year that it was made. And it's not the highest car, And so the car in front of me was actually an SUV, and they went through first, and then I went through with my Lexus. And when all the water came back, to the height of my Lexus, my Lexus like died. It died in the water. And as I was sitting there, I also was kind of panicking. Like, I honestly was panicking because I didn't want to lose my car. And I didn't want to lose my car because, one, it was a very expensive car. I was not done paying it. Two, I didn't know if losing my car meant, like, you know, I wasn't going to have any, like, I wasn't sure if my insurance was going to cover it. I wasn't sure if I was going to have anything if I lose my car. And so then I was kind of panicking. I didn't know how to get my vehicle out of the water since it wouldn't turn back on. Like, I was trying to turn it on and get it out of the water before it got even worse. However, like, my car legitimately like died and it was not coming back to life. And so then, like, I was trying to text my partner, but then I dropped my phone in between like my legs under the seat, and I was having trouble trying to find it as well. Like, you know, when you're put in a situation where there's so much going on that like you panic, and the phrase for this is called, I believe it's called like code black, where you just kind of freeze, and that's when like fight or flight happened. And I was obviously in flight mode. I was honestly like frozen, and I was not trying to figure out situations at all. Like, I just lost it. So when I finally found my phone, I tried to call my partner, and my partner always talks to me about this, and he brings it up to me about how is it possible that like he always brings it up to me and says that I need to be better in situations like this and prepare myself more, because when I was telling him about the directions of where I was, I literally just said I'm by the apartments down Walgreens, and there's so many apartments around us. And he didn't know where I was, and I was like panicking, and then I was like angry at him too for first he didn't pick up my phone call, and then when he finally did pick up, like, I didn't know how to explain to him, and then he was confused, and then I was confused, and I was like still worrying about my car. And then I was like, just walk down the way where the Walgreens is, and you'll see me. And so then we hung up. We also had like the cops show up and block the way so that nobody would come and accidentally hit me or the person in front of me. And I waited for my partner, and eventually the water just kept rising and rising as I was sitting there, and I was like thinking about how I could save my car, what I could do, trying to turn on the engine on and off. And then a lady actually walked by, and she told me that she was living at the apartments kind of down the block, and from her building up there, she could see that we were like struggling. And so then she came down, and she was asking me if I was okay and all of that stuff, and I was like, I'm okay. Because of her, I rolled down my window, and I was trying not to open my door because I didn't want water to get in, and so then I didn't open my door because it just, from seeing ahead of me, there was just so much water. So then, because she had walked by, I decided to open my window and have like less rain get into my vehicle, right? So I had opened my window, and I had talked to her, and, you know, I just told her like, yeah, there's really nothing I can do. You're fine though. Thank you so much for checking in on me and the person in front of me. I really appreciate it. And then she kind of walked off. And as I was sitting there also, like, the water just got into my car, and it got into my like ankle, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm really gonna lose my car. And, you know, even though my car had died, I was still able to roll down my windows and unlock the car door and everything. So I don't really know too much about how all of that works, but now at this point too, there was a moment where I couldn't even roll up the windows anymore. However, the car was like unlocked, so I was able to like get out of the vehicle. My partner showed, and my partner was talking to the officers for a little bit, and then my partner had this bright idea to check the sewers. You know how like there's sewers where the water goes down, and he had the bright idea to go check the sewers and declog it so that the water would go down. And fortunately enough, he went and found the sewers, which at this point, the water was about like 2 feet deep. It was so deep that you were literally like dragging yourself in the water. So then with that pressure as well, like when my partner was trying to declog the sewer, it was so strong that like he told me it even stuck down his foot at a point where he had to like pull his feet out. And when he was declogging one of them, it was due to like leaves and sticks and trash and all of that stuff. But there was one that had a darn sandbag. Because there was construction in that area, they probably blocked it with a sandbag so that things wouldn't fall in there. And that sandbag blocked all of the water from getting into the sewer. And I believe that sewer was a really big open one as well, because and that's probably why they put a big sandbag there to block it. And that is what caused the flooding, and that's why my accident happened. If the sandbag wasn't there, I honestly believe that flood wouldn't have been there that much, and that my car could have been saved enough. Like, it wouldn't have been that bad. So then I was helping my partner declog, and after we finished, we were like, I was like trying to start up my car again, and it just wouldn't start. I couldn't roll up the windows. Everything was dead at this point. And I was still so worried about my car. I was like, I don't remember if it was that same night or if it was the day after. But at one point, I had a towel like closed into my car to kind of block the window to just protect it, I guess. And yeah, I still had hope, you guys. I still had hope that I was able to save my car. And I just want to go into like some tips for you guys if you ever see yourself in this situation. One, it's always safety first, you guys. Like, if you can get out of if your vehicle is dead and it's not turning back on anymore, make sure you just kind of eye around you to see if there's any broken electricity wires or anything, because there may be electricity in the water. So don't even get out unless you're aware of the situation, and like maybe somebody already got out and they're safe, and then you get out of your vehicle and just abort your vehicle. The car is just not worth you trying to salvage and trying everything you can to save it over your life. Now, had it not been for me rolling down my window as well, I believe that if the flooding had continued and I had stayed in my vehicle, I could have drowned in my vehicle with all of that as well. And nobody prepares you for these kind of situations. You don't know what to do, what to expect. And because I was such a materialistic person too, I couldn't let go of this luxurious car that I spent hundreds and thousands of dollars on. And I didn't know what the future was going to look like without it. Like, I didn't want to lose it. So my advice to you is roll down your windows, check around you, and then get out of the vehicle safely. And if everything is safe around you, where there's like no electricity wires or anything like that, then find the darn sewer and declog the sewer, and hopefully maybe you could save your car and you don't have to deal with insurance and worrying about the future, and maybe your car will start up again and it's not like flooded all the way to like your engine and stuff. That is my advice to you from this incident in my life. And I hope that you don't ever have to experience that kind of trauma, because I'm not gonna lie, honestly, going through that area still, like I still drive through that area, I still am traumatized. I still am like, oh, like this is where I lost my car. This is where the flooding was so deep and everything. And I still am traumatized by heavy rain. Like, It's not even the first time too where rain and driving has caused me trauma. So this, adding on to that, I really genuinely hate driving in the rain now. And I try to heal, I try to recover and all that stuff, but it's still just something that's always like, it's still something that's just difficult for me. So I hope that you don't ever have to experience that, because it's not fun. And even dealing with like, the recovery process as well is not fun. But I hope that you learn from me as well how to hopefully maybe save yourself and your car, and that maybe number one, if the weather is not nice, then don't even go out, even if you only live 3 minutes away. So that is my lesson to you. And the reason why I was sharing all of this about this car and this incident is because this is what prompted me to have the bright idea of going to Thailand. I've always had this kind of like, I want to travel alone and I want to kind of explore the world. It'll be so fun. Like van life was something that I kind of was like, is it for me? Like, I kind of want to do it. But after like thinking, I was like, maybe van life is not for me. And then I had this idea of Thailand, but I was like, I don't think it's ever going to happen. So when this car accident happened, it allowed me an opportunity. What I had thought that was like me losing something so valuable in my life and something that meant so much to me was going to be so sad and heartbreaking was the best thing that could have happened to me. I will admit, like I was a very materialistic person. Losing this luxurious car, I was very sad, and I was, worried about what I was going to possibly even get from this. And, now I'm not going to have a vehicle to go to work. But I later realized maybe this is just me being very optimistic and, working on my mental health and trying to look on the brighter side of things when unfortunate event happens. But I was very optimistic, and I thought to myself, maybe everything happens for a reason. And this moment in my life was supposed to happen so that it could take me a step back and make me reflect on myself about how I became such a materialistic person that I thought that this luxurious car defined me and my worth. However, it does not define me and my worth. And so then I was like letting go of this car where, people would hype me up about. And I didn't even tell you guys the story of how I got this car. Honestly, I didn't get this car because I chose the car. I kind of got it because I was taking it over for a family member. And, I decided to just kind of buy it from them and not lose the vehicle. So then I bought the car from them. But before that, I didn't care what kind of car I drove as long as it was safe and it was drivable. I didn't care about this stuff. But when I had this Lexus, I became pretty materialistic, and this car was kind of like boosting up my ego. And I was like, yeah, I have a nice car and things like that. But then when this incident happened, it made me reflect on that. That's not who I am. And, that's why I'm losing this car, is because I got too caught up in the moment of being materialistic. So then, I was optimistic, and I was like, it's okay that I lost this car, and, just got to figure out my insurance stuff. Luckily enough, my insurance did cover my whole car, and I actually got a big sum of money for my car. The amount of money that I received for my car also boosted me to be like, wow, like now I have leftovers, or I have a backup as well, and I can use this money to go on this trip. I was like, everything is just happening like it's supposed to. Now I don't have a car to pay for anymore. I was paying about like $500 a month for the car itself, and then like $200 insurance. Since it was such a luxurious car, the insurance was expensive as well. And I didn't have that responsibility anymore. And then I only had really my rent. And my rent, I was only paying about $500 because I was sharing it with my partner. So I was only paying about $500. And I was like, what if I use that rent money to pay for rent in Thailand as well. Or maybe it'll even be less in Thailand because Thailand is a lot cheaper. And I use the money that I would have spent paying for my car, saving for Thailand, and then in a couple months, I go to Thailand. The job that I was at as well, it was like a job that I didn't see myself in the future in. Like, it was a job that I was good at. It was a job that I could honestly have been replaced. And it was a job to just bring me income. So I was like, I don't think I have anything to lose leaving this job as well because I gained the experience. And then I was like, maybe just so that it looks better on the resume, I guess, I could finish working there and making sure that it totals up to 1 year. So if anything worse comes to worse, I could have that I worked there for 1 year, right? So then I was like, I have a couple months until it hits the 1 year. And I hit that 1 year mark, then I could quit the job and I could fly to Thailand. And I could just go and explore, find myself, and work on myself. So then all of this came into mind. All of this was just happening so fast. And I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm really going to do it. And when I set my heart on something, you guys, I am the type of person where I don't just put my feet in. I make sure that when my feet is in, that the water is also warm and that I am prepared. And so that it isn't just me going based off of a feeling and just doing it without thinking it through. So then I started thinking all of these things through and I was like, I'm going to do it. So I decided to bring up the idea to my partner, and my partner was like, that's pretty cool. Like, yeah, if you want to do that, I support you. And so then I was like, oh my God, yeah. I was like, yeah, I've always, you know me, I always wanted to do van life, but van life is a lot tougher because I hate driving. So that doesn't go together. And so then he was like, yeah, go for it. And even he knew that my parents were not going to be okay with it. And since me and my partner are not married, it was kind of like I'm still under my parents' roof, right? Being Hmong and all that traditional stuff. Like, I'm still under my parents' roof. They kind of like still nag and say things to me. And so then I went up to my parents and I brought this idea to them. And my mom was not happy. And she was like, no, you're not doing it. And I was like, I am going to do it because I think it's the perfect time in my life. And like, my mom would bring up things like, oh, if you do that, and then your partner's not going to want to marry you anymore. You're not going to have a bright future, things like that. And then I was like, well, my partner is actually on board with me going. He's actually supportive and all of that stuff. And, you know, I think that it's the whole thing that I always talk to you guys about. Like, I always say how my mom always is so worried about my future and marriage and all of that stuff. And, you know, I gave her the same thing that I always give her. And I was like, well, what if I get my partner to come here and, you know, let you know that he does support me? Because she was all like, he doesn't support you, he doesn't want you to go, he's just lying, he's not gonna marry you, blah blah blah. So then I got my partner and my sister as well, my sister, my Nia, to come and support me and help me convince my parents, or just help explain to them and make them feel less worried about me as I go to Thailand. My parents didn't understand what I was trying to do or why I wanted to do this so much. They kind of just thought that I wanted to go to Thailand and explore and do nothing with my life. But the truth was, I wanted to try and find myself and find my purpose in life and really work on myself. And it's hard to explain to Hmong parents about having a purpose in life and living purposefully, whether or not it is something that brings you money or not. And they don't understand about you allowing yourself that space to find yourself or to find that as well. Because sometimes it's not about working at a certain area to see if it's for you. Sometimes it's about seeing the world and seeing how people do this and that to help you find your purpose in life. if you constantly are unhappy with where you are at your job, yet you're not exploring the world, anything outside of that to help you find your purpose in life, then really you will never find that thing that will spark that for you. So it was really hard to explain that to my parents and to get them on board about my trip. But with the help of my loving sister, my Nia, she's a lot better in Hmong than I am. She can find words that I could never have imagined or I could never come up with. And she's just really good with her words. So she was able to explain what I was trying to say and how I felt about finding my purpose in life and stuff to my parents. And I also brought up, and she also brought up, helped me bring up as well, that because of my CSA incident, and they all know, everybody at the table, we brought up that because of what had happened to me, I always felt so empty. And I always felt like there was something more for me out there, but I don't know what it is. And that is why I have to go and search, and I have to find it for myself, what it is. And, you know, my sister did a wonderful job explaining that to my parents, because it was very difficult for me to explain that to my parents as well. Not just that, but the emotional part when your parents are already not supporting you, you just get so discouraged and you feel so disappointed, and you feel a little bit of pain, you know. And I was emotional too at one point during this conversation about how, you know, they're not supporting me and helping me pursue this journey that I really want. During this meeting, there came to a point where then my dad was kind of like to my partner, Sean. He was like, Sean, do you support this idea that she has? And, you know, do you love her? Will you even love her after she goes to Thailand and all that stuff? And, you know, this was kind of like the moment where I saw how much he loved me. I saw how much Sean loved me because of how brave he was as well, because we've never had any moment like this where he kind of, you know, stood his foot for me towards my parents or anything like that. So this was for him to step up and for him to even use like Hmong words, you guys, for him to even like speak in Hmong to my parents and explain to my parents about how he supports me and how he's encouraging me to go as well, because it is something that I want to pursue and I want to try and find that purpose in life. And he understands, because even for himself, you know, the work that he's doing right now, he is pursuing that, and that is his purpose. And he even shared about how at one point too, like his parents wouldn't support him to go to the military, and he wanted to go, and he understands that, you know, they just want their child to be safe, but when you don't support your child as well, it can also make them very sad. It is just so amazing to watch the love of your life stand up for you and explain to your parents about why they support you and how they understand where you're coming from and all of those kind of things. Like it's so amazing to see. It felt like it was one of those moments which I've never experienced before, but I have witnessed before, where two people get married and that guy is saying his vows to that woman, and it felt like he was saying his vows to me, but in a different scenario, you know. And it felt like I was just watching him express how much he loved me and support me. And just thinking about it, I don't want to get emotional, but it was really nice to see. And I tell this a lot to people, and some people, like, this was the moment when I knew how much he loved me, and when I kind of knew like he was the one. Oh, okay, getting too off topic now. Let's get back into this whole meeting happened, and then at the end, my dad even shared with me about how he would give me some money, and my mom as well. I knew that it was them showing me that they love me and that they support me. And so then, the meeting went well, and now it was the real deal. Now it was happening, and I was going to go to Thailand. When I say that all of this happened fast, it happened fast. Everything was finalized by the end of May, where I was like where I already had the meeting with my parents. I already figured out my car insurance stuff. I was going to get paid and all of that stuff. Like I had all of that figured out already by the end of May. And my car accident happened earlier in the month of May. For the next couple of months, I didn't have car bills to pay. I only had rent and I was still working full time. So it was still bringing me full-time income. I had that money that I didn't use to spend for my car saved up as well. And I started saving up that money after a few months where I hit my 1 year at that workplace and then I quit. And I spent a couple of months just living life where I spent more quality time with friends, family, and my partner. Within those months, I used that time to also research about like where I was going to stay, what location, flights, things like that, to make sure that I was safe and what I had. And, like watching YouTube about taxis and money and markets and things like that. So I did a lot of research within the time from May to September because my flight was in September and I was going to land in Thailand September 6th. And if you're looking right here, it's September 6th is when I landed in Thailand. And I have the little calendar marked there. It's not for no reason. It's there for a reason. And so September 6th was when I landed in Thailand. Now, you're probably wondering, like, why Thailand out of everywhere in the world? Well, it was because I have been to Thailand before. And it will be my third time going to Thailand. I've been there 2 times before. The first time was with my family. And then the second time was with my partner. So I was familiar with like places, currency, taxis, things like that. And I was like, it's a second world country where it's a lot cheaper. And I could use this moment in my life to really try and find something before I get another vehicle with another loan or a house with another loan. I was like, this is the perfect time, the perfect place because it's cheap, it's affordable. I've had experience traveling there before, so that's why I chose Thailand. I remember the first time I went to Thailand, we had met this kind of pastor and he was kind of Ubering us around to kind of show us Chiang Mai. And I wanted to connect back with him because my sister told me that he had made a center, kind of like a community center, I guess you could say, where you can go and sleep there and kind of get to know the environment and things like that. So my sister told me that he had developed that as well, and it was in the process, and that I could reach out to him as well for like support or to go and just kind of see and have him show me around Chiang Mai and things like that. And that is how I got that kind of like teaching opportunity to go and teach at his center for his students. I believe it was when I arrived there that he had asked me to kind of teach his students because now he had students. And I was like, yeah, I could teach them a few English, even though I'm not like a teacher or anything. Like I could tell them the basics, and he was like, yeah, that would be wonderful. And so then I was like, that's so awesome. And the reason why I wanted to see him was not because of this teaching opportunity, but it was because the title of him being a pastor. And I don't know why, maybe society set this image in my head where it's like pastors are understandable, you can confide in them kind of deal. So then I was hoping that he was going to be that for me, where I could confide in him and that he could give me guidance and that he could teach me ways or things and lessons that I could take away from, and it would help me better myself during this trip. So that was my intention of going to see him and everything. I didn't share all of my CSA incident with him through the phone. I was like, when I get there, we'll see how it goes, and I have some things to talk to you about, and I want to see how you guys live your life here and things like that. So then that was the reason why I went to the center. So then I had that as well as part of the game plan to go to the center. And other than that, though, I didn't know anybody. And my sister had brought up that every connection I had was just through my sister Mania. And she was like that we had a cousin there as well, and they'd be more than happy to show me around. They lived in Bangkok, and so then it was like in that city, then I at least had somebody. And so I was like, yeah, that's wonderful. It's better to have the option to connect with somebody than to not have anything at all. And so then this lady, which I did end up meeting with her name is Maul, and she's married to her husband, which I call him Pete Tom. And so then I had them as well, but I didn't even connect with them before I went on this trip. I actually met them when I arrived to the city, when I was ready to kind of reach out to people. So I had all of this kind of planned out and maybe of what I was going to do and things like that. But it was just still kind of like I was going to go with the flow. The months that I spent unemployed, like I said, I used that time to spend quality time with my friends and family. And they all knew I was leaving. So they all were trying to make time for me, trying to spend quality time with me. And there was even a moment where it was kind of nearing, I think it was like a month before, or maybe even a couple weeks before I flew out. My friends threw me a surprise going away party. And unfortunately, none of my family members showed up. I don't know, maybe they were busy or they weren't comfortable or whatever. But my family didn't show up. But my friends all threw me a surprise going away party. And you guys, it was honestly one of the best moments in my life. And I will always remember all of the love that I felt that day, because never before have I ever been the center of attention. And I've never had an event thrown for me out of nowhere. And I felt so loved, and I honestly wanted to cry, but I was too happy and too excited, honestly, to even cry. But there's even a video on that, and they threw me a surprise going away party, and it was so beautiful. I loved every single moment of it. I was so happy that these people cared enough about me and that they loved me enough to do this for me. I feel like it's a reflection on yourself when you are giving and you are serving people where they acknowledge your existence and they appreciate you and they want to celebrate you as well. And I never felt this before because, as you all know, I was not the best version of myself before, and I never had deep connections with people. I never had strong relationships with people. So for this event to happen, I knew that I was going places and that I was doing things and connecting with people, even if it wasn't the best, that it was different and that I was doing something good. And so then it was just such an amazing event, you guys. And I will forever remember every single person that showed up and celebrated me and encouraged me. And some friends even donated some money for me as well. And, that means a lot to me because every single dollar matters when you're going on a trip and you're unemployed and you're going one way, you don't know where you'll end up. It meant a lot to me. And I want to give this moment then to shout out to all of the bosses that showed up that day and celebrated me, and all of the bosses who went above and beyond as well for me. So to sum up this episode, a lot of people ask, how did it happen? Why did you come up with this idea? How did you go through with it? Everything that I just shared, I hoped it all answered your question. And that brings us to the message of today's episode is everything happens for a reason. So when you think that your life is so shitty, or that, oh man, I just lost my car, I got to deal with insurance, I got to find a new car, I got to find a new insurance company, and you're all stressed about it, and you feel like, why does life have to be so shitty? Why does it have to be me? Maybe it's happening for a reason. Because I could have went that route. I could have been oh my gosh, I'm so dumb. I drove my car into the flood. Why me? Out of all the people that was driving through here, it was me and the person in front of me that lost our car in this pile of water, yada, yada, yada. But look at how I approached it. I approached it as an opportunity. And I truly believe that life is like that. maybe you could say that I'm just too optimistic and that, it's not like that. Like sometimes life is shitty, but what if you open your mind to that everything happens for a reason, and even all of the shitty stuff is supposed to happen so that something else better could happen. Not to say that you wish shitty things would happen, but that even if it does happen, that look on the brighter side of things as well. Use it as an opportunity for something more, maybe. Like how I lost this car due to a flood, and I used this opportunity of not having to make payments on our car to go and find my purpose and work on myself in Thailand. So remember, everything happens for a reason. It may be an opportunity. It may be something to help stop something from happening in the future, because I didn't even share with you guys, which I totally forgot, is that my car actually gave me a lot of trouble. I actually just had the tires changed because I had a flat tire. Every single year, the tires were just bad. I did a 360 with that car. That car just gave me a lot of trouble, even though it was a really nice car. Like, it was just bad juju with that car. And so maybe it was like to protect me from something bigger or worse happening to me. So think of it like that and be optimistic and find a reason to make it so that you aren't miserable with what had happened. Now, before I closed off officially, I want to talk about how I came up with the title Project Finding Me. There was a girl that I was inspired by. She was kind of like living in Korea, and she was going on her own project as well. And her project was about loving herself. And so instead, I didn't want to do it on loving myself because I wanted it to be about finding my purpose. So instead of like, Project Loving Me, I was like, I'm going to go with Project Finding Me, because I'm going to be finding me in multiple ways, like not just about my purpose, but about how I am in solitude, how I am with love, how I am around other people, how I am in many other ways. And so then that's how I came up with the idea of Project Finding Me. I wanted to have something that I could always kind of hashtag about, because I didn't want to be like hashtag Solo Thailand all the time or anything like that, because again, I'm such a petite girl where it's not safe for me to kind of say those kind of things too. So, Project Finding Me was just so perfect. And just like how this woman inspired me to go on my own project as well, I hope that, Project Finding Me is something that people also use as well. And it's not my title to own or anything. I want people to use Project Finding Me as something that they go on their journey to find themselves as well. And I actually did have one boss reach out to me and share with me that if they could use this title of Project Finding Me, and I was like, it's not mine to own. It is for everybody to use, to be inspired by, or to spread to the world about the importance of finding yourself. That's all I have for today's episode, you guys. I know that today's episode is a lot longer because there's just so much details in everything, but I hope that I covered some of the questions that you guys had. I hope that this was a great introduction into Solo Thailand Project Finding Me. I hope to see you guys in the next episode, as it will dive deeper into the details of my trip and with photos, hopefully, and all of that goody stuff. Remember, as always, stay being the bad boss that you are. Bye!